Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today's story takes place in a high-end family restaurant that took decades to build and years to modernize. It starts with a packed dining room, a group of entitled guests, and one very confident lie about knowing the owner. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. "The owner is my friend," she said to the guy at the door. "I'm the owner. I gave her a table and a life lesson with a 4-figure price tag." My grandparents came to America from Greece in the 70s and started a restaurant. When they passed, the business went to my parents, and over decades they grew it and expanded. I've been working there since I was 15. Eventually my parents got older and retired, becoming snowbirds who spend their winters in Arizona. They left the restaurant to me a few years back, though they kept a small percentage of ownership as an extra income stream alongside their savings and retirement funds. As soon as I had control, I set about modernizing the old place. I remodeled the dining room, updated the logo, reached out to local and national papers for features, and invited food critics, bloggers, and vloggers. It was very slow at first, and I started to panic that the loan I'd taken out was the biggest mistake of my life, that I'd ruined 3 generations of family work. But eventually things turned. A semi-famous regional YouTuber featured us in one of his videos, and that was the catalyst. More people came to review us, and soon we were doing 5 to 10 times the business we used to, even on a Monday. We became a hotspot for major events, and it wasn't uncommon for a celebrity to drop in. On those nights, I'd even arrange for special guest chefs to come and cook, which cost a fortune, but it was worth it. By the holidays, we were packed beyond belief. People had to make reservations in July to get a table in December. It took years to build to that point. When it gets that busy, I don't hide in the back office. I'm on the floor doing whatever needs doing, whether that's greeting guests, bussing tables, or even mopping up. On nights with high-profile events, I'm in a blazer acting the part, but I'm never above the dirty work. One night, a group of 6 women walked in. 5 looked like they were still in their early 20s, and the leader looked to be in her mid-20s. My best guess was she was an older sister or maybe a senior sorority sister to the others. I was greeting at the door as they approached. The leader, let's call her Queen Bee Chelsea, was telling her friends how amazing this place was, how the food was incredible, and that they might even spot a celebrity. She came up to me and said she needed a table for 6. I replied, "Of course. Can I get the name on the reservation?" She looked at me and said, "Oh, I didn't make one, but it's fine. The owner is a personal friend of mine. He said he always keeps a table or 2 open for special guests and told me we could have one tonight." Now, it's true that many high-end restaurants do that, and lately I had been doing the same, but I had no idea who this woman was. She had definitely never spoken to me. She was trying to bluff her way in, but she picked the worst possible person to try it on. I told her, "I'm sorry, but we can't seat anyone without a reservation. As you can see, we don't have any seats available." I didn't want to outright say, "I'm the owner and we've never met," because I didn't want to embarrass her in front of her friends. At first, anyway. She then said loudly to one of the other girls to take a picture of me and that she'd speak to the owner and make sure I was either cleaning toilets or fired by the end of the week. The others followed her lead, saying things like, "Yeah, kiss your minimum wage job goodbye." I wasn't sure if they were in on the bluff or actually believed she knew the owner. Queen Bee Chelsea then said, "Look, you can just give us a table or I can make life very difficult for you. This isn't worth losing your job." She kept pointing, trying to put me down, saying things like, "Obviously you're nobody here, because if you were, you'd know who I am and would never tell me anything other than yes or of course." She was constantly trying to belittle me into giving her that table. At that point, it had been a long day. I saw 3 options. 1, tell her I'm the owner and call her out. 2, just give her the table and let it go. Or 3, teach Queen Bee Chelsea and her little followers a lesson. I chose option 3, partly due to some personality flaws I'm aware of, but I like to think it was at least 50% really wanting to teach her a lesson. I smiled at her and said, "Of course, ma'am, follow me, please." I gave her one of the 3 tables we keep open in case a celebrity comes in, which does happen from time to time. I told her I apologized for everything and that she was right. It was simpler to just give her the table. I also told her the first 3 rounds of drinks would be complimentary. I sat them down and personally served them. As they were settling, I told them we needed one of their credit cards and an ID to keep on file, and we'd return it before they left. Queen Chelsea handed over her cards and told the others the night was on her. I took their orders, got them their free drinks, and mentioned that due to how busy we were, there might be a delay on the food. All the girls seemed to care about was those free rounds. They ordered their 3 rounds and still no food arrived. They eventually called me over to check, giving me nasty attitude the whole time. I said I'd check, but asked if they wanted more free drinks. They ordered 2 more rounds by the time the appetizers arrived. At this point, they were all drunk, having done nothing but drink on empty stomachs with only salads afterward. As more food came, they ordered more drinks. What these girls never realized was that they were at our VIP table, which alone cost a few thousand just to sit at, though I didn't charge them for that. What I did charge them for were all the super expensive cocktails they had throughout the night, except the first 3 rounds. Also, the VIP table has different menus. They don't list prices. They feature higher-end items like white truffle dishes, black caviar, and specially imported East Coast oysters, among other things. At one point, I reconsidered, thinking I might be going too far with these girls. They might not know any better. But a few things reassured me. One of the followers asked me if I felt my life was worthless since all I'd ever be was a waiter. Another employee told me they'd overheard them discussing how to mess with me so they could do this whenever they wanted, and I'd always give them a table. I also overheard one say he's cute, but I'd never date a waiter like that. He's such a pushover. There were comments like that all night, so I continued with the lesson. By the end of the night, each girl had racked up a bill in the range of $500 to $600. When I handed Queen Chelsea the bill for $4,232.23, including tax and tip, I've never seen anyone sober up so fast. She went from laughing with her friends to nearly in tears. She called me over instantly and asked if this was some kind of joke. I took the bill, looked it over, and said, "Oh yes, I apologize. I'll get you the correct bill in a moment." She felt a complete sense of relief, thinking she'd gotten someone else's bill, called me a effing idiot, and went back to talking to her friends. To be fair, I had made a mistake. I'd forgotten to add her 8th order of a dozen oysters, which cost about $120 per order, so I gladly went back and added it. When I returned with the corrected bill, she flipped out again, going crazy. I just asked if there was anything on the bill she hadn't ordered. She and her friends in shock went over every single line, including the first few that showed their original 3 rounds marked complimentary. They took out their phones and went over everything line by line, adding it up. Rattled, Queen Bee Chelsea simply said, "1 second, I need to use the washroom." Part of me thought she might try to dine and dash, leaving the others with the bill, but I had in a way reminded her we had her ID and credit card. 10 minutes later, she came back with fresh makeup. She'd clearly been crying and made up a story about how the food was awful and the drinks were bad, demanding that I at least cut the bill in half. She said the others would chip in, even though she'd originally said the night was on her. Then, as if a light bulb went off, she again mentioned her relationship with the owner, as if to give me incentive to slash the bill. Holding back a grin, I told her no, just no, I couldn't change the bill. She whipped out her phone and showed me a series of texts with someone labeled "My Restaurant's Name Owner." I realized she'd probably just changed the contact name and deleted previous texts while in the bathroom. I read them, then clicked on the contact info and told her that wasn't the owner's cell number. Her reply was, "He has multiple phones for business. Of course you don't know all his numbers." I thought, wow, this girl thought of everything, except that I'm the actual owner. I told her, how about this? If we call him and he says it's okay to take 50% off, then I'll do it. She started yelling and screaming, drawing looks from the remaining customers. I knew it was time to end this. I told her, already in a less accommodating tone, "Cut the crap, little girl. You don't know the owner. You've never been here before, and if you keep yelling, I will call the police." Her demeanor changed, and she tried to defend herself weakly. My reply was, "My grandparents founded this restaurant. My family's been running this place for generations. I've worked here almost my entire life. I am the one and only owner of this restaurant, and I have never once seen you, heard of you. And I definitely never made promises to a stranger I've never met before tonight." The many Chelseas were frozen, not knowing how to react. Queen Bee Chelsea was in tears. I said, "Now I gave you the table you wanted, one of our specially reserved tables for high-end clients, which I didn't charge you for, and I gave you 3 rounds of free drinks. If you don't pay your bill, I will call the cops and hand them your ID." In tears, Chelsea signed the bill. The others took out their purses and gave her whatever cash they had, maybe a couple $100 with promises to pay her back more. 2 days later, a man walked into my restaurant fuming and asked one of my bartenders to speak to me. I was in the back office, so he waited a good half hour. It was Queen Bee Chelsea's father. She was with him, keeping her head down. I took them to my office and showed him highlights from the security cameras, which have especially good audio quality in the VIP section. We keep good records because of past unrelated incidents. I showed him most of it, their comments, their orders, everything. When all was said and done, he stormed out with her, screaming at her the whole way. I haven't seen or heard from either one of them since. This is why I love when someone tries to bully the staff and the staff turns out to be the owner. It's like watching a scammer step on a rake. The fake text with restaurant name owner is hilarious too. You didn't trick some innocent person. You gave them exactly what they asked for, the VIP treatment. They just didn't realize VIP comes with VIP prices. And our next story. Karen gets flagged by store's theft recovery system, demands a manager, assaults him when told she's trespassed. I've never seen anything like this happen in real life, and I'm still kind of stunned that it unfolded right in front of me on a random grocery run. This morning I stopped at my local Meijer here in southeast Michigan. For anyone not from the area, Meijer is basically a Michigan institution, huge store, groceries, clothes, home goods, the whole deal. I wasn't there for anything dramatic. I was there for cotton candy grapes. Those things are my weakness. And when they're in season, I will absolutely rearrange my shopping route around them. The produce section is right on the left when you walk in, so I grabbed my grapes and started heading back toward the front of the store to grab one of those street taco meal kits near the entrance. I was literally steps from the doors, not even 100 feet away. That's when she appeared. You know how some people just look like trouble? Like their body language alone says, I'm about to demand a manager. This woman had that exact vibe. Tight posture, aggressive walk, face already set in a scowl. I clocked her instantly. She marched straight up to the greeter, and the greeter, who was a middle-aged woman with the calmest demeanor I've ever seen, politely stopped her and said something along the lines of, Ma'am, I need to speak with you for a moment. That's when I pulled out my phone. I didn't even know why yet, instinct I guess, and thank God I did because what came next was unhinged. The greeter informed her very calmly, very professionally that she'd been flagged by Meijer Theft Recovery and was identified as a trespassed individual due to prior theft. Apparently Meijer uses a system tied to barcode data and vehicle information, and this woman had already been identified on a previous visit. Right at that exact moment, my phone died. Perfect timing. I kept holding it up anyway and pretended to keep recording because I knew deep in my soul that this was about to get good. The greeter said, I'm sorry, ma'am, but you're already on our list of trespassed individuals, so I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Still polite, still calm, still professional. Crazy Karen absolutely lost it. She immediately started yelling that there had been a mistake, that she had never stolen anything in her life, that she's been shopping there for over 20 years, that this was outrageous, that they couldn't treat a paying customer like this, and of course, because it's required by law in these situations, she demanded a manager. Here's where it gets even better. The general manager happened to be in the store that day. So now I'm no longer shopping. I'm emotionally invested. I've abandoned my taco kit mission entirely. I'm here for the show. The GM comes over with a tablet in hand and says very matter-of-factly, so this isn't you? This isn't your car and your license plate leaving the store after stealing merchandise? The color drained from her face, then immediately rushed back in full force. She turned this deep, alarming shade of red. I swear she looked like Aunt Marge from Prisoner of Azkaban mixed with Mrs. Puff from SpongeBob. That's when she hit a volume level I previously thought only dogs could hear. She starts screaming, How dare you? You really think that's me? I've never stolen anything. I've been coming here for over 20 years. She demanded the corporate number. The GM calmly gave it to her and told her she needed to leave immediately or he would call the police. Cue the dramatic declaration, I'm never coming back. Without missing a beat, the GM replied, if you do decide to come back, you'll be arrested. I probably wouldn't recommend it. Mwah, chef's kiss. That's when she noticed me. She locked eyes with my phone and shrieked, full banshee mode, started yelling that I couldn't record her, demanded I stop, flailing her arms like that would somehow help her case. At this point, the GM physically but gently took her by the arm to escort her outside, and that's when she completely spiraled. She started slapping him, kicking him, screaming hysterically right there in front of the entrance with other customers watching. I decided that was my cue to return to being a normal person and finish my shopping. When I eventually checked out and left the store, there were 2 police cars parked right out front. I didn't see anyone in the back seat, so I can't say for sure if she was arrested, but given the assault, I'd be shocked if she wasn't at least having a very bad day. The final insult, my phone never saved the video because it died mid-recording. I'm trying to see if it backed up anywhere, but honestly, even without footage, this was the most unhinged grocery store experience I've ever witnessed. All because she thought she could stroll in like nothing ever happened. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.